Kamala's scrambling to win back male voters who were ditching her in droves for Donald Trump. But so far, her bro pandering has been a total joke. Harris sending out her self-proclaimed knucklehead to go pheasant hunting. But he couldn't even get that one right after fumbling around with his shotgun.
Yeah. That's my theory.
And it never fits quite right.
Never fits quite right. Just not quite right. How do you give it back?
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This is a Beretta A400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap because it has a kind of their patented thing, a kickoff. So when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much.
Kamala is also deploying another man, Bill Clinton, to win over voters in Georgia. But that, too, was a flop after a McDonald's worker confused Clinton for Joe Biden. Take a look.
You Joe? Mr. Joe?
All right, Jesse, I'll start with you on the gun. Okay, so Tim Walz says he's a lifelong, a lifelong bird hunter, and he claims that he is very proficient with guns. What I just saw and what I've read from people who are experts is that this guy doesn't even know how to load a gun, or he doesn't know certainly how to, if there's a problem with a gun, get it to reload.
So my shooting instructor said the bolt release and the safety is on the right side of the gun. That's a right-handed gun, but he's holding it like he's left-handed. That's why he's struggling. So he says he clearly doesn't have a clue. They also went out and never shot a thing. And Walz never even pulled the trigger. This was the one reason Kamala picked Walz, because he could handle a gun. That's like a guy who women aren't voting for him, so he taps a female VP and she changes a diaper and puts the diaper on backwards. That's how bad this is. Now, we also watched him under the hood one time when he changed a clean air filter with a clean air filter. Now, I didn't notice. Tyrus noticed it. Right. Shows you how much I know about trucks. But he is actually hurting her with men. And then you send Bill Clinton out, and Bill Clinton says, well, the great replacement theory, yeah, that's true. We do need these people because we don't have enough birth rate here, and they do all the jobs. And then he said if these migrants had been properly vetted, then Lake and Riley would still be alive. And this is after Barack just scolded black men. Not only is the primary not doing well with men, but all the surrogates are blowing it too.
You know, I think that Barack Obama, when he went out, he berated, or certainly that's one word you could use, black men for not supporting Kamala. The interesting thing is that it was Barack Obama who first came out when they threw Joe under the bus and said he didn't believe Kamala could beat Trump. And now all of a sudden he's on the Trump train, on the Kamala train, I should say.
Look, politicians have changes of heart. We all have documented.
It was like 3 days.
Right, but I mean, people can change their minds, and I respect when people change their minds. We had an exchange a week ago here about Democrats praising Liz Cheney but being critical of others for supporting President Trump. So I understand that. Two, it shows what happened to Bill Clinton and McDonald's. We all have a shelf life. And he had to say his name. There's going to come a time when, it could be next week, when no one recognizes me or any of us. So I'm happy once he said his name that the young lady came up from behind the counter, and bless her heart. Three, you remember when President Trump was in Detroit, I think it was a week ago, and he said if Kamala Harris wins, then the rest of the country will look like Detroit. He was speaking in Detroit at the Economic Club. He probably misspoke. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably didn't mean that. So people say things, and they do things. Tim Walz is a 24-year military veteran. I think he knows exactly what he's doing with guns, and sometimes that stuff happens. I think he got jammed, and to say he doesn't know what he's doing, I think is probably unfair. I wouldn't dispute a gun instructor. You're a gun instructor, but I do think things can happen when that goes about. Surrogates. I think Elon Musk and Dana White have been pretty effective surrogates for Donald Trump, and I understand it as a message to basically take advantage of the gap that exists in the electorate, where men seem to be more likely to vote for President Trump and women seem more likely to be voting for Vice President Harris. I get that. So having surrogates out, be it Barack Obama or others campaigning on their behalf, I think is a good thing. Now, I would agree with you with President Obama. I thought it was an interesting way to try to persuade a voter by lecturing. And I've never, in my little experience in politics, I've always tried to persuade voters with facts and explain why they should be on my side, as opposed to telling them why they're wrong or why they should be thinking differently than they are. But he'll get it right the next time. Finally, we live in a world where we live in two economies. We have lived for a long time that way, where middle class and lower than the middle class, who people economically speaking, are trying to find their way to higher ground. And people who are rich have just gotten richer over the last 20 years. If I were Vice President Harris, and I've said this for a while, state your policies and ideas and how they're going to make any group of Americans, black, white, old, young, wherever they may live, whatever their background might be, explain how your policies and not your opponent's policies are going to help get them to higher ground in a better place. The closer we get to there, and the more we get there, the less we talk about race, the better the country will be off, and the better these campaigns will be off in the long run as well.
Well, there's no question, Dana, that it was President Obama who said that he not only lectured black males, but he also said that they're probably not supporting her because she's a woman. Now, the amazing part of that is that for Barack Obama to say that when Hillary Clinton did better with the unions, Hillary Clinton did better with black men, is kind of, it's almost like it's forced from him.
Well, not only that, but I think it's just a little bit off in the evidence because the same people were not for Biden.
Exactly.
Right.
So I don't think it's a sexism thing, it's a policy thing.
Right.
So when you look at Tim Walz, you think, Tim, you had one job. Your job was to be like a normal guy from the Midwest. And look, if guns aren't your thing, that's cool. There's a lot of guys who aren't for that either. You don't have to try to do that. You can just be your progressive self, go out there and try to support her. That video is so painful. I had like that transferred embarrassment of like a friend. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even watch this. But it goes back to the idea that MSNBC pundits think that Tim Walz is the kind of guy that all the other guys want to be. And that's the kind of masculinity that you're looking for. And it's just it's like off. I don't quite understand it, but I am fascinated by the gender gap. And I think, I hope I live long enough to read about the history of this election. But this just felt like more like anything. This past weekend really did feel like an episode of Veep. There's nothing more that has encapsulated the ham-handedness of this campaign than that video there with Elmer Fudd and the orange.
Yeah, Elmer Fudd. And Greg, one more thing, that when the coach, also known as the real assistant coach, went to a high school football game where he was an assistant coach, he didn't quite get the reception that he was expecting. A lot of boos there.
I think there's a lot about him that is probably not what we think it is. And I'm sure he really embarrassed his friends, those school shooters, with that shotgun display. It's like, what are you doing? Come on, buddy. Bill Clinton was just happy they didn't mistake him for Jimmy Carter. Because Jimmy, where are we now? Bill Clinton looks terrible.
Yeah.
He really looks bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's not talk about that. I want to talk about that Men for Kamala ad where they actually had to hire actors to play the male voters because they couldn't find any. And while they're doing that, you have Elon Musk unveiling new robots, a driverless bus that's beautiful. He sends a rocket into space that then lands, which is like insane. And you mentioned Elon Musk and Dana White. And you're thinking to yourself, you know what? That's what men like. That's what men are. This thing, whatever they're doing, whether it is Tampon Tim or what the ads, that's not real outreach. What you're doing is you're treating men, again, like a faceless mass, a group that you can exploit, just like the Dems do with blacks and women. And no real, with an exception to you, Harold, although I don't really believe you're for what's her face, Kamala. I just can't believe it because no real man on earth has a problem defining a woman. No real man on earth says you can have a penis and be female. There's no real man that believes you should be teaching like anal sex to kids. No real man think it's fair to put like muscular men up against females in sports or put male sex offenders in female prisoners just because they happen to grow their hair out. You know, you're not a man if you ascribe to any of that. And if you vote for Kamala, you are voting for that. That's why, no, Harold, you are not voting for Kamala. Right. I am going to bet I want to see you take a picture of the ballot because I don't believe you're going to do it. I think you're going to vote third party, Greg Gutfeld.
Write it in.
In your face.
I'm voting for her, it says. All right, up next, Bill Clinton just told the shocking truth about Kamala and the border crisis.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.